Hi everyone, and welcome to In Deep Geek Live. Today we are back with another A Song of Ice and Fire live stream, and I'm also, I hope you can see, in the middle of a slight tech upgrade. Already improved the video. Hopefully, the audio on this will also be a bit improved. So do let me know if that is the case. What we're going to look at today is the Dawn Age. But before we get into that, there are a couple of things I always try to give people a quick heads up about, a few things that are going on out in the wider nerdy world of science fiction and fantasy TV shows and films. The big news this week really is the Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time is, for those who don't know, this is an epic fantasy book series by Robert Jordan. Brandon Sanderson finished it off, and it's been around for a long time, and they have now made it into a TV show. It's been made by Amazon. It's going to be in big budget. So this is something that we're all really looking forward to. Also, partly with half an eye to the Lord of the Rings, because obviously this is an Amazon thing as well. So the production values we see here will be at least the same, if not higher, for Lord of the Rings. So there's a lot of build up to this. So got a super chat. Thank you, Mara Lee. Hi there. You're on the chat. Lovely to see you. Saying, just saw the new trailer for The Wheel of Time and thought it looked fabulous. What do you think of the trailer? And do you recommend reading the book series before watching the show when it finally airs? Yes. So I'm very happy. If you've not seen the trailer, by the way, you can find it. You can go to Twitter, just look for me, search for Indie Geek. I've got it up there. It's, I think, really good. I really enjoyed it. In terms of the books, I saw before we went live in the chat, people were talking about this. There are a lot of books. There's 15 books in the series. Each book is proper epic fantasy length, so it is quite a time investment to read the entire series. I would say to you, looking at the trailer and from what I've heard, is that the first season of the show is going to cover books 1 and 2. So The Eye of the World and The Great Hunt. So if you are wanting to read the books first, you just read those 2. You don't feel you have to read the whole thing to appreciate and understand it. Now, I understand this decision. This is obviously a showrunner decision to condense the first 2 books down into just one series. There's going to be 5 seasons. There's going to be 8 episodes apparently, so about 4 episodes per book. That feels quite rushed to me, I must say, but there are a lot of books to get through, so I entirely understand this. Personally, I would have probably condensed the one slightly later on. If you've read your way through the book series, you'll know even the most ardent fans of The Wheel of Time accept that the sort of the middle towards the second half, the pace slows quite a lot. So I would personally have done an entire season on book 1 because there's a huge amount of world building going on there, but I am willing to give this a go. It looks amazing. The production looks fantastic. The sets, the magic looks really, really good. They've got Rosamund Pike who is obviously an amazing actress, so everything bodes well for this. As to what we can say looking at it, I'll probably put a few thoughts on Twitter tomorrow, just mini breakdown of the trailer. I think the main thing to say is it does look like it's broadly following the books, so then at the very least there's not much there that's looks like it's very different. It does look like they're probably going to be speeding through quite a lot of it, but picking up on all of the main points. Beyond that, I don't think I'll say much more now. Do go and have a look at the trailer. If you're interested, you enjoy fantasy, then I suspect you will enjoy this. I will put some further thoughts over on Twitter tomorrow. Jewel Elson, thank you so much for the super sticker. Ryan Larkin as well. I'm sure I had another one or two just to thank people for. I'm sure I will find them in a moment. The Mara Lee, you also said, gave us super chat saying, just my show of love and support for all the fabulous content, especially for all the live streams coming up for this month. Thank you, dear Robert, and hugs to gorgeous Dan the dog. Love you both. Thank you very much, Mara. I do appreciate that. In terms of you talked about the content for the next month. What I've tried to do this time, and I'll try and do this going forward, is to line up the next few live streams, just so people know what to expect over the next few weeks. So I will be working my way through time periods. Over in A Song of Ice and Fire, we're going to start off the Dawn Age, move through the Age of Heroes, then work our way up through the sort of Andal invasion, up towards the time of the Targaryens, and just take a high-level view going through time. And similarly, I'm going to take that kind of approach with the Lord of the Rings. At the moment, I'm going to do once a month a Lord of the Rings live stream. The next one's going to be in 2 or 3 weeks' time. You can check out the schedule there on the YouTube site. And what people wanted, I went to. This is one of the perks of being a patron. At $10 patron level, you get a chance to tell me what I should be making videos about. And I said, what do you want Lord of the Rings live streams about? And the answer came back, time periods. An overview of the background and history to Middle-earth, because when we get the TV show, this is set back in the Second Age. This is thousands of years before the Lord of the Rings story that we know. And the one shot that we've had, the one little snippet that we've had, seems to be even earlier than that. So there's going to be a lot of background on history. So what I hope through those live streams is to allow people an overview of the history of Middle-earth, of the whole creation that we have there in the Legendarium from Tolkien. So that's the aim there. The other thing, before I get onto the main subject for today, the other thing just to note is just an announcement. It was quite a low-key announcement, so I don't know what to make of this yet, but on the official Game of Thrones Twitter account, official press release from them, there will be an official Game of Thrones convention in February of next year. It's going to be in Las Vegas. So if you've been missing conventions, do keep an eye out for that. That might be something that you want to consider, particularly if you're over in that part of the world already. Tobias Gulker saying, just pitching in to support your tech upgrade. Looking forward to the stream. Well, thank you, Tobias. I hugely appreciate that. It's what I've been trying to do, just as an aside, over this summer is to spend some time doing the sort of the behind-the-scenes upgrades to what I can offer you. So improving the sound quality, including the visuals. There's going to be a branding revamp coming soon as well, so keep an eye out for that. And if you're a fan of The Well Told Tale, my other YouTube channel, like audiobooks, if you want to know whether I've ever done any audiobooks, check out The Well Told Tale, incidentally. That's going to be given a sort of a soft relaunch as well. Better audio obviously will work for that, and slightly improved videos as well. So I've been doing quite a lot of stuff behind the scenes that hopefully you will see the benefits of over the coming weeks.
Up with you.
Ariel Winchester saying, hey Robert, hope all is well. How much of what we know from the Dawn Age is foreshadowing for how our current story will finish playing out? That's an excellent question. What I will do, if it's okay with you, Ariel, I will start off with one of the questions from my patrons. This was from Mara Lee, actually, as an opener for what the Dawn Age is. Mara was asking how long the Dawn Age lasted and why it's important for fans of the book series to recall the age. Now, so an overview. The Dawn Age technically is something that the Maesters have come up with. This is a categorization of a period of time in the history of Westeros. And that period of time extends from when the first men arrived in Westeros, and it leads up to the time of the signing of the pact. And I will talk a lot more about the pact later on in this live stream, but basically that's the cessation of the conflict between humans, the first men, and the children of the forest. So that's the time period we're looking at. In terms of how long it lasted, well, maesters say that perhaps it was from 12,000 years ago to maybe 6,000 years ago. They're quite vague. And all of these figures are rounded off. And the reason why is because there weren't records then. There weren't people writing things down on pieces of paper. We don't have history books that people were writing at the time. What we have, such as it is, are legends and stories that have passed down through the ages, and then also a few runes and other inscriptions left by the children of the forest and some others. So that's what we've got going on. And so everything we know, and I'm sure I will say this again, but everything we know about the Dawn Age, we have to take with a pinch of salt. These are stories. These are almost creation myths, the starting, the foundations of time. So yes, there will be some truths in there, but also there will be hints that are dead ends. They don't mean anything. They're just stories that have passed down and have been created for whatever reason and just survived because they're good stories. The same as in our world. So that's what George R. R. Martin was trying to do. Now, prior to the Dawn Age, I should probably say we have huge amounts of creation myths and things, mostly from Essos. Prior to what we think of as the Dawn Age in Westeros, we had the children of the forest and the giants who lived there. It would appear mostly at peace, although sometimes they seem to have come into conflict. And then perhaps we have two other things going on. The first is the dragons. George R. R. Martin has said, yes, at some point the dragons were over all of the planet. Now, he didn't sort of say when that was. We don't know how old dragons are, so maybe he meant around this period. We certainly don't have any references to dragons later on until the coming of the Targaryens and the Valyrians. And then the other is just these old legends from the Iron Islands. When the first Iron Islanders arrived there, they found a sea stone chair. Their legends go. And so that implies the possibility of there being some intelligent life who was there before them. So are these the deep ones? Are these ancient kind of life forms that we know nothing about? It's very hard to say. We don't have any cut and dried information. So that's the background to where we were in the Dawn Age. The main story of the Dawn Age is the movement of the first men in all the way through. They came in through what was known as the Arm of Dawn, walking across the land bridge that went across from Essos into Dawn, and then moved their way up all the way across Westeros. And this was a long and slow invasion, and humanity won partly because they had better weapons, partly because they were bigger and stronger, and partly because they had more babies and their population just continued to grow. So this is a long, slow matter of humanity destroying the children of the forest and their way of life, and slowly settling themselves as being the main inhabitants of the continent. So that is the overarching story of what we have in the Dawn Age, and it ends with the Pact. As I say, we'll get into it a huge amount more later, but this is the cessation of hostilities. This is the point at which humans, the first men and the children of the forest, got together and said, that's it, we're dividing up the continent on these terms, and we're not going to fight each other anymore. So that is the end point. And from there, that's the marker of moving into the Age of Heroes. Again, the Age of Heroes is just a term that the Maesters came up with to describe the next period of time. But we're looking at the Dawn Age today. So, Ariel, you're saying how much of what we know is foreshadowing for how our current story will finish playing out. Well, I don't know whether foreshadowing is the right word, but what I would say is very clearly the case is that we have to understand that humanity, we see this whole story from the humanity's perspective. We're seeing it through the eyes of humans. But that is not how the children of the forest see it. They do not see Westeros as belonging to the humans, to the first men. Westeros was theirs. They were there beforehand, and that these other people are the people who have come in and taken their land away from them. So that is the mindset shift that we have to have. When we're thinking about the children of the forest, although they may have made a peace with humanity, that they do not see that as the natural state of affairs. The natural state of affairs is them, the weirwoods, and nature living and coexisting happily together. Humanity are the ones who came in and disrupted all of that. So that is the context for our understanding of what happens in the story. So our understanding of what the children's actions are, which will increasingly become important, that must come from our understanding of where they were in the Dawn Age. And don't forget that the weirwood trees do not see time in the same way that we do. They see everything happening at the same time, and that also impacts on how the children of the forest see it. This is not something that happened long in the past and I can now forget about. In a more metaphysical sense, this is something that is happening now. The trees are being chopped down by humans now. That is their perspective, the weirwood trees' perspective. So we shouldn't take that, I think, as foreshadowing. We should take that as framing our understanding of the children of the forest and their role. And the other thing I should say, just building on that, is that the George R. R. Martin has said that the green men will come to the fore later in the story. Now, what does that mean? Well, who the green men are? The green men are the people who are protecting the Isle of Faces, which is where the pact was signed. And so that place and the pact itself will become important, will come to the fore later in the story.
It's too far away.
Marvin Martin, with weirwood time-space vision communication powers, Greenseers could see, coordinate, and prepare for men's coming long before their arrival. Is there more to the story? Yeah, so this is a good question. You've got people who can see into the future. Do they... why didn't they do more about it? Well, I think the short answer has to be because they couldn't. Humans were just more powerful and stronger than them. And seeing into the future, we still don't know exactly how this works. Bloodraven is very clear. You can't change the past. You know, can you change the future? That's an entirely different thing. But we haven't seen how this works yet in the world of Song of Ice and Fire. The clear implication, because it happened, is that there was nothing they could do to prevent it. However, we do have to see the longer term of this. They will be thinking not just in terms of weeks or years or decades or centuries, but in millennia. Where is it going to end up? And this idea of the weirwoods triumphant at the end of all of this does make sense, not just in a narrative arc for Bran. The story started with Bran and ends with Bran, but this also makes sense in a narrative in terms of what we have heard about the history of Westeros as a whole. It starts with the weirwoods and the children of the forest, and it ends with it as well. So I think we should think about this from their perspective as being something that plans happening over millennia. Eamon the Boneless, thank you very much for the super chat. getting some love for the new video camera. I'm very pleased about that. Dinosaur saying thank you for entertaining me, Wizard. You're very welcome. Cloaked One just giving a shout out to Hard Peter, who is celebrating their 19th name day. Best wishes from the IDG gang. Yes, Hard Peter, you get a glasses off moment. Happy birthday to you. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And let's just
It's
look
too far
up.
away.
Seen Aro Jürgensen. Hi, Robert. May I ask what's in the picture on the wall behind you? Been looking at it for hours by now. That's there. And I will bring it up and show you properly one day. I assure you. That is by the wonderful artist Vanessa Cole, who I happily give shout outs to whenever I can. Hopefully one of the moderators will be able to put a link across to her website. She
I need to
does
get closer.
wonderfully realistic, often pencil drawings of Game of Thrones and Westworld and much more. That is Westworld. I appreciate it's a little bit far away, so you can't see it particularly well, but that's a lot of Westworld characters going on. I will show you up close another day, because another tech upgrade, if you believe this or not, will be improved background. Oh yes, this is happening. As I've been putting a lot of effort over the summer to trying to improve this. So this might be, if you're a long-term viewer of these live streams, this might be the last time you see this this wonderful background. So say farewell to the sheet over the desk. There may well be a different thing appearing behind me next time, if I can get it working. Let's just quickly flick through. I think I had another super chat to get to. Eamon the Boneless, do you think we'll learn more about Ashai or Yi Ti? I think that was the plan from George R.R. Martin. So I should say, so Ashai and Yi Ti, a little bit of context. Most of this live stream, I suspect, we'll be talking about Westeros, because this is what we know the most about. This is the history that we hear the most about. Yi Ti and Ashai, the civilizations and cultures there are at least as old, if not much older, than what we have in Westeros. The Maesters are reasonably clear about that. They, even in the world of Ice and Fire, which is a story that the Maesters are telling of the world, they accept that places like Yi Ti were far advanced of what the First Men were doing in Westeros. And because people came from Essos to Westeros, the clear implication is humanity was in Essos first before it got to Westeros. So, Yi Ti, this is a part of the world, an empire nowadays, but before that, its sort of predecessor empire, we have this incredibly mysterious place, an empire called the Great Empire of the Dawn. I say it's incredibly mysterious because it seems very important, kind of symbolically. We hear that we had the first god emperor who was there, who reigned for, I think it was 1,000 years or something like that, then passed it on to his son, and they reigned for hundreds of years, and then passed it on down. And this was where a great civilization flourished in Essos. So we don't know how big it was, we don't know how long it lasted. The numbers, as always, they're rounded off and seem quite exaggerated, so we probably shouldn't take them too literally, but it certainly seems from the timeline that we've got that happened before the Long Night, which happened, as we'll mention again in a moment, happened in the first-ish part of the Age of Heroes. So, will we learn more about Yi Ti and Ashai? Well, I think the plan originally from George R.R. Martin, he sort of admitted it, he's not said exactly, but was that we would get Dany going all the way over to Ashai. But that's not happening now, and nobody's going to go there. We might see Ashai, we might hear of Ashai, we might get flashbacks to Ashai, but we're not, I think, going to get any characters going to Ashai in the story, the main story. We're almost certainly not going to get anyone going to Yi Ti. So, are we going to learn more? We'll probably learn a bit more, but I think the main message is as symbolically and
How
interesting
generous.
slash possibly important and as intriguing as these places are, they are not part of the central story. Ashai probably is more than Yi Ti in that this is where a lot of ancient knowledge is stored, and we get that particularly when it comes to dragons and the long night and all magical stuff. We're always hearing about people coming back with great knowledge from there or sending for knowledge from Ashai. So it will have a role, but we're not actually going to go and see it. Prince of Quarkness. If the others are a weapon race for the children, why would the others have the rich culture of their own that George R. R. Martin has implied in interviews? Well, I mean, this is a question of whether the others, we'll come on to this, I'm sure, but whether the others happened during the Dawn Age or just in the Age of Heroes is a matter of quite a bit of debate, because the exact iteration of events there, we can make, I think, an educated guess, but we can't be 100% certain. But in answer to your specific question, George R. R. Martin does hint at, but also more importantly, I think his writing very clearly suggests that there is a culture of some kind for the others. They have a language. They create ice weapons. They seem to have a sort of not just a way of communicating with each other, but some sort of hierarchy, understood hierarchy from the very few times that we've seen them, and their own technology. So where does this come from? Well, I think the short answer is that if they were created, introduced, whatever it was that happened way back around, whether it was the Age of Heroes or the Dawn Age, that's thousands of years ago. So yes, why wouldn't they have developed a culture since then? Maybe they had one already. This is a theory that we've not talked about much, but I don't think we can put it to bed completely yet. We've not talked about much recently because of what happened in Game of Thrones, the TV show, which kind of made everybody go, okay, so they were created by the Children of the Forest. It's possible that they were brought in by the Children of the Forest, maybe opening a rent in space-time, bringing people in from another dimension. I don't know.
It's too far away.
We can't say anything. If so, they could emerge fully formed with their own culture, rather than create a culture from scratch. It's not something we've talked about huge amounts since we had the revelations on the TV show, but we shouldn't necessarily take the TV show as being exactly right. It was a lot easier for them to show some poor guy tied to a tree having a bit of dragonglass shoved into them than something big and complicated involving huge amounts of magic and conjunctions of the spheres or whatever. That wouldn't be easy to show really. So I'm not saying I believe that that's the case, but it is possible still. Question from Eduardo Gonzalez. Thank you very much for the super sticker. Marvin Martin, how can the White Walkers win if George R. R. Martin plans on nailing magic? I don't. Well, if you mean by nailing magic as in getting rid of it at the end, I don't think he said that magic is going to go away. He said he's very clearly implied that the seasons will come back into balance. That's not the same thing. Magic will probably still exist post the end of the book series, but that doesn't mean that the White Walkers will win. So I think that we shouldn't just associate the one with the other. Question from Cloaked One. Picking up something for Aaron McGuinness. Thank you so much, Cloaked One, for doing this. I hugely appreciate it when you do. Do you think it's significant that Dawn is described in a similar way to the others? E.g., the line about being pale as milk glass, or is this just coincidence? Love your content. Thank you. Okay, well, that's really interesting. So, Dawn is the ancestral sword of House Dane. Now, how old is it? I don't know. Definitely millennia old. And it definitely came, or we're told that it came from a comet, a meteorite striking Earth, landing at Starfall, hence the name, the island of Starfall. And from the metal within that, they forged this great sword. And it does have milk glass. There is, I'm sure out there, I'm sure I've seen essays out there for people who are looking. This milk glass is a fascinating. George R. R. Martin does use it a few different times. There will be people who picked up on all of those. Is there a link or reason why he uses that to describe this sword and the others? I think probably yes. I think he is wanting the names Dawn, Sword of the Morning, these all seem to be implying the end of the long night, and for it to be used as with this again, the language usage reminding us of the others does. It's I don't think it's and what I should probably say is I don't think George Martin tends to do the kind of complex wordplay where if we could only work out like a cryptic crossword what the exact thing he's trying to do is, that will tell us exactly, with these words, that will tell us exactly what all the different things mean. No, what he does do is he uses words to make us think of other things, to make us make connections. So an example is that for John, a few times he uses dragonglass as kind of symbolism with John. So the language with dragonglass and obsidian and frozen fire. This is because he's giving us this idea. He's wanting us to think about ice and fire because this reflects John's heritage, which is still in the books revealed. So that's the kind of thing he does. If he is saying here's a sword, which is very clearly associated with a long, long time ago, and he uses the same word that he uses for the others, that has to make us think that it perhaps is connected to the others in some way, that it does have some kind of maybe it was used against them, who knows. So is it a coincidence? No, it's the short answer. Nileo, thank you so much, saying very generous super chat, thank you, saying Robert, I can't believe I've caught you in the hive. I'm so happy, I love your content. Well, thank you very much, and it's great to have you. I do have a question. I'm very interested in the Night's Watch. How powerful were the Night's Watch at their peak? Very is the sort of the short answer, and when I say very, is that there were lots of them. Now, in terms of how powerful they were, I think it's probably quite hard to gauge. What is apparent and is perhaps not apparent all the way if you just sort of skate across the history. But what apparent was that the Night's Watch as a concept were known throughout Westeros, not just during the period of the Seven Kingdoms, but before that. They were known as a place that you might send people off to sort of guard Westeros. For example, I was reading just recently about Nymeria and the Rhoynish who came into Dorne, and during that invasion, lots of people were sent up to the wall. And this is from all the way down in Dorne. This is hundreds of years ago, well before the Seven Kingdoms.
You got my attention.
That this was clearly an established thing to do, to send people up to the wall if you just wanted to get rid of them honorably without killing them. So it was known, and given the amount of castles that are there on the wall, whereas now they're down to just 3 garrisons effectively, and each of those they're not full. There was space for thousands there before. When you go to have a look at the descriptions of each of these, some of the castles are massive and can hold hundreds of thousands of Night's Watch. So at its peak, there must have been probably tens of thousands of people there on the wall. It was very impressive. Powerful, but not powerful politically. People did stay at the wall. Marvin, actually just answered that one already. Ty Farnsworth saying, "Hey Robert, thank you for reinvigorating my love for writing with your videos." Oh, that makes me very happy. So if you're a writer and if this has helped reinvigorate you, it's like when people say that I've helped them pick up the books.
What can I do for you?
That makes me very happy. Not a Dawn Age question, but Arya's travels often mention seeing wolves. Is this literal or metaphorical for the war? I mean, I'm not entirely sure. In terms of Arya's, I think you probably mean Arya's travels through the Riverlands with the Hound. She often sees wolves. Yes, she has got a link to Nymeria. You have to remember that during this period, Nymeria, the wolf that she bonded with, the dire wolf that she bonded with, that she sent away in the Riverlands, is going through the Riverlands, gathering together a super pack of wolves. So and communicating with those wolves in wolfish ways. So this is almost like, and I've not gone through to sort of check each of these instances, but it's almost like the wolves are just sort of keeping in contact, maybe keeping an eye out for her. This is quite deliberate. We should see there are mentions of this wolf super pack just randomly through the course of 2 or 3 books of what they are doing, and they're just starting to gather in strength. Is it symbolic? Well, yes. So the presence of the wolves in the Riverlands is obviously symbolic of the Starks, and whereas the Starks as a whole, the Stark army, effectively gets sort of slowly ground down and defeated, and obviously Robb dies, and the Boltons defect, and so that gets diminished. What remains are the people in the woods, the people in hiding, and they are not to be underestimated. So it's both practical and symbolic, I think. Question from Kelly Johnson. If I can find it. I just lost it again. Interaction between the Children of the Forest and the Great Empire of the Dawn. Okay, interesting this. So the short answer is the Great Empire of the Dawn was based over in Yi Ti, which is the far side of Essos, this huge mountain range, cutting off even from what is now the Dothraki Sea. So it didn't seem to go all the way across that. We don't know, but it didn't seem to go all the way across into Westeros. What there is, and I will come on to this in more detail later, but what there is a whole series of hints that stuff was going on in Westeros in a very small area of what we now think of as Old Town. This was a trading post here for the people who were on Westeros, Children of the Forest, and people from elsewhere. So would there have been contact? Probably. Not huge amounts of contact, but probably some. Mara Lee picking up, thank you Mara, I love it when people do this, picking up from Mistman Jones. What about the Deep Ones in the Dawn Age? Are they the remnants of some drowned civilization that predated the First Wind? Quite possibly. So the Deep Ones are they're legendary, ancient, impossibly almost kind of Lovecraftian.
What's on your mind?
Figures that George R. R. Martin uses in the background, in the history. There are legends, there are stories. What are they? Well, I don't think he's ever going to tell us. I think this is a nod to other kind of worlds and a creation of extra layers of detail and history and mythology within his own world. Might they be some
I have the finest wires in the land.
remnants of a drowned civilization predating the first man? They might be. And as I say, there are the clues with the sea stone chair, which, if this is true, that it was for this intricately carved throne was found fully formed by the first people to appear on the Iron Islands, the first of the Ironborn, effectively. If that is true, then
See you soon.
yeah, it's entirely possible there was someone else there. There's no reason to think that the Children of the Forest were necessarily the first people who were there, the first residents of Westeros. We do not know how old Planetos is. George R. R. Martin does not tell us. The World of Ice and Fire does not tell us. So yes, perhaps there was another civilization even before the ones that we are aware of, and perhaps they are what we remember today as being the deep ones. Lyle Hammack saying, hello Robert, just a thank you for all your content. Are you going to get the Nature of Middle-earth book? I got my copy and it is fascinating. Hashtag dancing bears once again. Thank you. Well, thank you, Lyle. Yes, it's a new Tolkien book called The Nature of Middle-earth, all about sort of the world of Middle-earth. What is there, not just about well, the name gives it away. The Nature of Middle-earth. Yes, I will be. It's something. It's on my list. I will be getting it in and reading it soon. I've got as you would expect, quite a big reading list at the moment. I'm also wanting to reread all of the Witcher stories before The Witcher Season 2 happens in December, but I will definitely get to that. So yes, I will be, and I will happily, probably as is my way, do a short review on Twitter when I do get around to it. Sydney Rose, do you think George R. R. Martin will open A Song of Ice and Fire up for other authors to explore and contribute, like Frank Herbert and his son did with the Dune universe? I feel like this is something he must have been asked about, and I don't know whether he said anything specific, but I think the short answer at the moment, no. At the moment, this is his world, and at the moment, he's the one writing all the stories. But we have to accept the fact that he has opened this up already. That's the way that he has done it. By signing TV deals and the like, he has opened this up for other people to be writing things. Now, he's always been on board as executive producer or whatever, but that means that people have, I mean, even on the show, Game of Thrones show, it's different, it diverges. He says, you know, here's my show, here's my books, here's the show. They're different. The big beats are the same, but the interpretations are different. You can have two different versions of the same story, and that's going to be the same with the spin-offs. I'm very confident that House of the Dragon is going to be sticking closely to the books, but the other spin-offs that we hear things about, the Nymeria one, for example, the one about Corlys Velaryon, the amount of source data, source information we have on these is very, very small. So it's, for example, as I said, I was reading the Nymeria 10,000 ships bit of the World of Ice and Fire just the other day, and it's a few pages long. Yes, it's, you get bits of information, but there is, compared to what we have for Game of Thrones, the TV show, thousands and thousands of pages that they could then choose how to put into a TV series, and ultimately they left out large amounts. This, they're not leaving out large amounts, they would be adding in huge amounts. We have the names of only 3 or 4 of the main characters in that, for example, so they could do whatever they want. George R. R. Martin has already decided to do it through TV, at least. The question is whether he would allow other people to write books in his world. He's already co-authored, The World of Ice and Fire is co-authored, but my guess is at the moment, no. He's going to keep the writing himself, at least until he gets the main book series finished. James Markey saying, thanks for making videos. You're welcome. Off topic, but I'm hoping for the inclusion of Gunter Odim in the Witcher TV show. Now, I doubt it will ever happen. Yeah, I don't know. He's quite a small character. I think that what we'll see the season 2 of the TV show is going to cover, as far as we can tell, again, we've not had huge amounts of leaks. This has been one of the, for TV show purists, at least one of the few upsides of COVID is that the amount of leaks we've been having from filming of various TV shows has actually been relatively limited because everybody's been staying at home. So The Lord of the Rings, for example, we've had almost nothing out of it. It's pretty unprecedented. The Witcher season 2, similarly, we haven't had huge amounts, but the bits of information we have had seem to imply this is Blood of Elves, so we're starting getting into the novels. The season 1 was very much focused in on the short stories, particularly the first short stories, but this we're going to get into the main novel period, would be what we're getting. There will be at least one of the short stories covered again in this, and it wouldn't surprise me if they do keep on dipping back to the short stories because they're very good, but now they're moving on into the main narrative of the novels. Reflective Rambling, thank you very much. This is for Austin Flowers, saying, could the palanquin carved from a single pearl denote a line of Greenseer kings all spawned from a single progenitor who walked into his sons until he ran out of princes, the prince that was promised? So this is, I think, a reference across to the Empire, Great Empire of the Dawn. A line of Greenseer kings all spawned from a single progenitor who walked into his sons until he ran out of princes. That's quite a... For me, that's quite a leap. I have to say, I think that you can take symbolism, and George R. Martin does use symbolism to hint at a huge amount of things, but I don't think we can take things as certain when he's using these kind of symbolism. I'll read it out again. Palanquin carved from a single pearl. Is it meaning a line of Greenseer kings all spawned from a single progenitor who walked into his sons until he ran out of princes? It's possible. It's possible. But we don't have any evidence for that, I don't think. So I don't think we can actually go much further with it. I like the idea, but no. Nelio, thank you again. Saying, Robert, I think I've read that one already, actually. So let's skip forward. The Land of Always Winter. When Bran masters his green sight, do you think George R. R. Martin will give us more details from the Dawn Age? If so, what do you think it could be? When Bran masters his green sight, when he has this, and well, first of all, will he master his green sight? That's probably the first thing to say. Is that we've only got 2 books left of this series of books, and in terms of actual time, maybe 2 more years. It's not really. It's quite hard to tell, but that sounds about right. Is that enough time to master green sight? I'm not entirely sure, particularly when you are still a child. He's still only maybe 10 in the books. So would he be able to master it by the age of 12? I'm not so sure. But will we be able to see through, or will George R. R. Martin use the powers that he does have to show us more from the Dawn Age? Well, I think we absolutely will see, if not the Pact, then we will see the start of all of this. This is on the TV show. We shouldn't take all the things on the TV show as being exactly right, but the fact that they showed us the origin of the White Walkers through Bran, I think it makes so much sense that is how we're going to discover the truth of what is going on with the the others, the truth of where they come from, the truth of what the big backstory is. So, are we going to find that out? Are we going to see that from the Dawn Age? Yes, I think we probably will. Will we see more bits about the Dawn Age? Probably not. We're going to be. George R. R. Martin likes leaving bits of legend. He's not going to tie up every single loose string from the history of the world of Ice and Fire. He will tie up all of the main threads in the main story, but not going all the way back. And we're not, to take one random example from the Age of Heroes, we're not going to find out exactly what was going on with Lan the Clever necessarily. He will happily leave that as a bit of a mystery. Question from Tommy Freestyle saying, do you subscribe to the long night was caused by meteors theory? If not, what caused it? Well, so my take on what caused the long night was the coming of the others. It's the most, if in doubt, Occam's razor. We've seen what happens with the others, and this is not, and again with the TV show, kind of like, particularly with the way they show things, that kind of skewed our understanding of winter. Let me explain. On the TV show, even at the end when we have the long night, then there is snow on the ground, but people are still happily wandering around. That's not what we have in the books. We have snow dozens of feet high in drifts in the books, and we're nowhere near the harshness of the long night yet. We see in the prologue to book 1, when the others come, then the air changes temperature, everything just freezes and cracks over. This is they bring the long night. So for me, the obvious answer is that when they come, that brings the long night. It doesn't need any external things.
What can I do?
The magic was what brought them into being in the first place. And it's their control then over the elements that is the thing which brings about the long night. Joel Faulkner, Bran has abilities to view the past. Will we see him looking back to discover how to undo the magic of the others, or even intervene in the past?
I need to get closer.
Well,
how are you?
Yeah, I sort of partly covered this one already, but just to round this off. Will we see him intervene in the past? Certainly in small ways. He's been doing it already. We've been seeing it in very small ways. He calls out to his father through the Winterfell weirwood tree, and Ned looks around, who's there? This is happening. Bran does interfere in the past, not
I need to get closer.
so far in hugely important ways. It will probably come to its sort of culmination with the Hodor moment, which will be similar to what happened, George R. R. Martin has confirmed, similar to what happened on the TV show, where that was him going into the past and intervening in what was going on there, with ramifications for the present. In terms of the origin, the how to undo the magic of the others, I think, yes, this is what we're going to find out. He will see the origin of the others. He will see how they came into being, and that will allow him to understand and get the first ideas about how to undo it. Because this is not, and I come back to this so many times when doing these live streams, this story is not going to end with the pacifist George R. R. Martin telling us that the great human army was better than the others and they fought a big battle and won. That's not going to be it. It's not going to be the way that we get a solution to this, so we get through this problem, is not through the biggest and best army won. That is not it. This is a matter of undoing the magic that led to the creation of the others, and Bran is the person who's going to understand this. And as we talked about a moment ago, this, I'm sure, is going to be connected
I'm out
in
of range.
faces, and it's going to be connected in between, and they will come to the fore.
I need to get closer.
I think that's. I've got maybe a couple more questions here in the chat before I drop over to questions from my patrons. Let's go to a question from Derry saying, I find Old Town being a trading post intriguing. To sail there is via known treacherous waters south of Dawn. Why Old Town is not a safe port? Okay, so the sea, if you imagine a picture of the south of Westeros, the sea with the treacherous waters, mostly we're thinking about the stepstones.
I need to get closer.
This was where the Arm of Dawn was before it was destroyed. That is treacherous. Then you get the seas going around the south of Westeros a lot easier. So in the olden days, before there was the Hammer of the Waters, that wasn't the case. That will have changed all of the sea systems. I'm not a sailor, but you can understand. I think I understand this. I think is that if you had a mass of land like that, and then that was broken apart, that would into lots of different islands. That would hugely change the currents and the tidal flows, as well as obviously if you have this preternatural magical event that throws the seasons out of balance. That also would have, we don't know exactly when that happened, but let's assume that without those things, that those waters would be a lot better. It logically makes a lot of sense. Why Old Town? Well, Old Town wasn't obviously there at the time. The name Old Town clearly does imply that it is an old town, so it has been there a long time. Why that particular bit? Well, it is a reasonable safe harbour, but also it is in a route in up the Honeywine River into the most lush, fertile part of Westeros, and does offer some safe harbour. So it actually is a reasonably sensible place for there to be an early settlement. It's where you would go. So many cities are sort of like at a confluence or by the estuary of a big river, where you can go upstream into some lush, fertile lands. London is prime example. London, as you head out of the Thames, gets wider and wider, so by the time you get to East London, it's the Thames estuary emptying out, but you go west and inwards from there. This is lots of lush, fertile land, and the south and southeast of England is all around sort of north and south of the Thames, so that is the same kind of feel.
I need to get closer.
Kelly Johnson, are the deep ones primordial elder gods? I think I covered that already, Kelly, but I think, George R. Martin's not going to give us a full answer on this one. The deep ones are definitely a nod to Lovecraft, and whether they were the inhabitants of Earth or Planetos before everybody else or not. The implications seem to be that they are. Prince of Quarkness. Why would the Children of the Forest use the Hammer of the Waters so late, when too many First Men had crossed? Could the Maesters be right that the breaking was natural? Yes, they could be right. Absolutely, they could be right. So the Maesters question this. The Maesters question all kinds of magic. So we shouldn't take their questioning at all seriously. But does it make strategic sense for the Hammer of the Waters? The thinking that we're told was that the Children of the Forest realised that they were starting to lose. They kept on seeing all these new people arriving in the south of Westeros, and so they cast the Hammer of the Waters to stop the inward flow. That seems a bit late.
I'm out of
is the argument, because the people were in already. It depends on, we do not know the situation at the time, so whether it was too late is a completely different matter. If the plan was, we've got something else up our sleeves, all we need to do is buy ourselves a little bit of time, we need to stop there, maybe if we can buy ourselves another 100 years, prevent lots of new people coming in now, just we have to wait for them to grow their population on their own without a new influx of immigrants, then that might make strategic sense.
I'm out of range.
We don't know. There's also the idea that there might be this sort of second Hammer of the Waters, which went across the neck, wasn't quite as successful, trying to cut off humanity from moving up into what is now the north. So is it possible that it was just a natural event? Yeah, it's possible. Of course it's possible. It's also possible that this was one of those things which happened just as a result of this preternatural magical event which set the seasons out of balance. That, whatever it was, a huge amount of magic was used, would have shaken the earth in some way, perhaps even literally. Everything was shifted. Maybe that would have broken that marriage. We don't know. This is one of those things that George R. R. Martin has kind of left us to ponder. It could be the Children of the Forest. Would they have been capable of it? Quite possibly, if they used all of their magic. Does it make sense?
I need to get closer.
Would it make sense depending on the strategic? But we do not know the strategic situation at the time. So, yes, if you wish to take a rationalist view of all of this, then the Maesters are obviously right. It could just have been a natural event. That not everything in this world has to be done by magic. Mara Lee, again, very generous, Mara. Thank you. That's very kind. Showing love for all the fabulous stories in the well-told tale.
It's too far away.
Thank you very much. Where I narrate audiobooks. It's also a podcast, if you're into podcasts. So I try and narrate the best science fiction and fantasy, classic science fiction and fantasy stories ever written. So if you want to read some Lovecraft or H.G. Wells' War of the World or anything Edgar Allan Poe, there's lots on there. I've been doing it now for a few years, so there's a huge lot of old stories on there to just work your way through. So if you're at all interested in that, please do go and check that out. And thank you, Mara. Scott Leno, I think you should really consider covering the lore of Discworld. I'd personally love to see that. I love the Discworld, Terry Pratchett's world. There is a huge amount in there. It's now obviously a finished canon, because he sadly died a few years ago. But will I cover it? I would love to, if I have the time. I think my slate is full for the time being. I've got Lord of the Rings, I've got A Song of Ice and Fire, I've got The Witcher, I may well do some things on Wheel of Time, other Westworld Season 4 is coming out. Very excited about that. That'll be coming out in a year or so's time. So I think I've got quite a lot going on at the moment. But yes, I love it. And if I, as I may well at some point in the future, shift to a wider focus to even more books, then yes, that will be very high up on my list of things to be looking at.
I'm out of range.
Andrew Cage is saying, with George R. R. Martin's magical cost concept, I can't entertain the show's version of the other's creation works in the books. No, it doesn't. I agree. So my working hypothesis is that, and sorry, just for those who don't pick up on this idea, George R. R. Martin is very clear. Magic has a cost. You can't just do magic from nothing. There is a cost to everything that you do, and the creation of the White Walkers on the show seems to be without any particular cost. They just made them, and that was it. My working theory is that the preternatural magical event that set the seasons out of balance is the introduction of the others. This is the biggie, the thing which has caused absolutely everything. And so that's what the costs are there. The seasons are set out of balance. Question from if I can find, I'm sure I had another question to do. Here we go. Nilio, thank you so much. Again, thank you. Saying, I'm so excited to leech
How
off
are
your
you?
knowledge.
Safe
What do you think
travels.
Littlefinger's
Can I
end
help
game
you?
is? I was so disappointed with his character in the TV show. Yes,
Be
so
careful.
we're moving a little away from the Dawn Age. I want to bring it back to the Dawn Age in just one moment, but I'm very happy to quickly round this one off. So Littlefinger, he's sort of announced his end game already to Sansa. And the idea is that he technically, as far as the Lannisters are concerned anyway, is Lord Paramount of the Riverlands. He's got Harrenhal. He's got the Vale of Arryn already. He's the Lord Protector there. He's looking to marry Sansa, or at least starting to head down the road of getting engaged to Harry the Heir to the Vale. And he is going to spot very quickly that up in the north they need a Stark. They need a Stark in Winterfell, and he will have heard the rumour that Arya has gone missing, Bran and Rickon are dead. Robb is obviously dead. Who's going to take over? Who's going to be the Stark? He's got Sansa, and that will give him 3 parts of the Seven Kingdoms. That is what he's aiming. He is claiming control in the Vale by buying off the Lords Declarant, the lords who are opposing him. He's got a huge grain scam going on. He's stockpiling grain because he knows the price of grain is going to go up hugely, and then people are going to be begging him for it, and he can use that leverage. So basically his idea is he's holding back the Knights of the Vale, which famed and very impressive fighting force, until what he thinks is the right moment, and then he wants to claim those 3 parts of the Seven Kingdoms, and then he will move on from there. So that's his end game, or his plan anyway. What will happen to him is he will get up to the north, and Sansa will come more into herself. She will realise what he has been doing. Bran will know what he's been doing, and we will get the mirror opposite of what happened when Ned Stark came down and was like a fish out of water down in King's Landing, and Littlefinger absolutely played him. We're going to get the mirror opposite of that up in Winterfell, and we're going to get Littlefinger, who finds himself like a fish out of water, and the Starks will absolutely play him. That is going to be the end of his story, in my view. Question from
I need to get
Sydney Rose. Are you excited about the Dune movie? Which shows and films are you most excited about? I am excited about the Dune movie. I'm not planning, people do ask me this a lot, but I'll clear it up. I'm not planning on covering it. I'm planning on just enjoying that. Dune is the classic science fiction story as far as I'm concerned. There are many wonderful contenders to that, but as something which has stood the test of time, it's there, and it's never truly been done justice on the screen. Having Denis Villeneuve at the helm, he's such a visually wonderful director that I think it's almost certainly going to be a wonderful film. So, and I think he said he wants to do at least 3, so that there's a huge franchise just there waiting to happen with Dune. I am very excited about it. I cannot wait to see it. As for other things I'm really looking forward to, obviously looking forward to Lord of the Rings, obviously looking forward to House of the Dragon. Other things, you know what I like, Witcher Season 2 is coming up, The Wheel of Time. What they gave us, actually, incidentally, I should probably say, they just put that down as a teaser trailer, so that's not the full trailer. The full trailer is still to come, so there's even more there. I don't think we saw Tom Merrilin, if you're a fan of the books, who I was really looking forward to seeing. He definitely is there. They did cast someone for that, so there's a lot more that we still haven't seen. Stamford Bridge saying, thank you so much for your Traveller's Guide series. It has been invaluable for me choosing inns and planning holidays in Westeros. Well, I'm delighted that I can help out on that. I'd love to know where you decided to go on holiday in Westeros. It's perhaps not the best time in the books to be going there. Donald Peoples saying, this conversation reminds me of how desperately I wanted the Long Night show to be greenlit. The possibilities, yeah, absolutely. So for those who don't remember, they did film a pilot for a show which was probably set effectively in the Dawn Age or the Age of Heroes. George R. R. Martin called it The Long Night. He said, I don't care what it's actually going to end up being called, I'm calling this The Long Night. This was what the plot was going to be about, and we don't know. We haven't seen this, as is the case with pilots that don't get greenlit. We haven't seen it, so we don't know. But all the rumours were that this was that we were going to see the Children of the Forest, we were going to see things, magic, we're going to see all of the things that we're talking about here, and it would have answered a huge amount. So I'm very disappointed that didn't happen. No idea, to be honest, why it didn't happen. Perhaps the full story will come out at some point, but they changed their mind very quickly and said we're going to go with House of the Dragon, and then immediately greenlit, without even having the pilot, greenlit the entire first season of that. Now, what I felt at the time, what I still feel, is that the timing and context of that was everything, politically with a small p. You had HBO, who had the biggest TV show on the planet in Game of Thrones. They were lapping it up. They were talking about having lots of different spin-offs, and they commissioned the first one of them that was ready. They commissioned a pilot for, and this was going to be something, it sounds quite edgy. The showrunner was I've forgotten her name temporarily, but she's actually, she did things like Kick-Ass. Someone in the chat will remember. I always have a mind blank about something in these live streams, but she would have had a very different visual take on the whole world of Game of Thrones from what we saw on the main TV show. But this would have been edgy and different to what we had for Game of Thrones. Then Game of Thrones season 8 happened, and as we know, it wasn't. Let's say it wasn't as critically well received as the previous season. So, what do? The people in charge of HBO, they've got this edgy one. There were apparently some problems in production as well, or they could go for House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon is the safe option. Let's be clear about this. In terms of something like Game of Thrones, do they go for a thing that is very different, that hasn't got any of the characters, any of the places that we know about, it doesn't have any houses we know about, it doesn't have any connection to anything that we know now? Or do they go with dragons and Targaryens fighting each other, Starks in the north, and just lots of battles in and around King's Landing and the Riverlands? That will work. That's the easy option. So that's why they went there. It was based on writings from George R. R. Martin already. This was the safe option. That doesn't mean it's going to be bad. It's probably going to be excellent. But I'm sorry, I'm going off on a rant here because I can remember I was also quite annoyed when it got cancelled. It's the safe option, and it's not going to give us much new lore about the world. It's going to give us a lot more about Targaryens and things like that. The ultimate mysteries which pertain to the main story of the Song of Ice and Fire. Okay, question from Isaac. Saying, been learning from your content non-stop these past few weeks while unwell, so here's a small token of my appreciation. Thanks for your amazing channel. Well, thank you. And I hope you're getting better soon. I'm sorry to hear you're unwell, but I'm glad that I can be comfort and help when you're not well. It's something that gives me a lot of joy knowing how people appreciate what I do. Okay, let's go across to some questions from my patrons. Let's go with Zakalok saying, hello Robert, writing this while doing pay slips. It's a I'd love to know why. If I can get you through doing that, doesn't sound particularly interesting to me. But if I can help get you through that, then I'm very pleased. What has been the role of the Isle of Faces through the Dawn Age, and how will this impact the current story? Okay, so we've talked about this a little bit, but I thought it worth just sort of coming back around to it. The Isle of Faces probably was already a symbolically important place for the Children of the Forest.
That ability
It clearly had already survived, that lots of the weirwood trees had been cut down, but it had clearly survived. There were weirwood trees on there already. So it was chosen because it was important, which probably helps this kind of working assumption that a lot of us have got, and it's not based, we have to be honest about this, it's not based on huge amounts of clear clues, but it just kind of makes sense that the Isle of Faces is sort of the central hub of the Weirwood network. There are lots on there. It's the place that they protect the most. Humans can't get to it. I mean, we only have 2 examples in all of history of since the Pact of humans actually going to the Isle of Faces. One of them was seemingly invited, Howland Reed, and the other one dropped in on the back of a dragon, so you can't easily stop them. So that's Adam Velaryon, for those who are interested. Now, and he died almost immediately afterwards, so we don't even know what he did or talked about or saw. But that, actually, complete digression, that happens towards the end of the Dance of the Dragons, so maybe in House of the Dragon we might see the Isle of Faces, at least briefly. That would be quite exciting. So what role did it play through the Dawn Age? We do not know the details, other than the fact that this was where the Pact was, which was the very end of the Dawn Age. This is where people came together, the leaders of the First Men, the leaders of the Children of the Forest, and it was marked by a couple of important things happening. The cutting of the faces into the weirwood trees on the Isle of Faces, which was so that they could witness what was being agreed. So this makes the Pact not just a sort of an agreement, but something holy, something witnessed, something which people can go back to and say, this is what we agreed. And secondly, it was the creation of the Green Men, who we do not know huge amounts about, but apparently they survived all the way through to the current story, because George R. R. Martin says they're going to come to the fore. So this seems to be, the Order of Green Men seems to be quite either long-lived or self-sufficient, because as much as we don't hear of people going to the Isle of Faces, we don't hear of people coming off of it much either. So during the Dawn Age leading up to that, we don't know. We like the idea. I like the idea of being the hub of the Weirwood network. It clearly was an important special place for that, but beyond that, we do not know. Question from Lauren Mintz saying, "Hello Robert, my question is about the Maze Makers. Maester states that some of the Maze Makers of Lorath built the building which is now the base of the High Tower of Old Town. As it was already old when the Annals arrived, do you believe this theory that somehow the Maze Makers came to Westeros during the Dawn Age and built this building? Or do you think that this was made by the Valyrians, despite the fact that by the time the Valyrians had expanded that far west, they should have been keeping better records? Or could it be possibly even older than the Dawn Age, like a remnant of the Great Empire of the Dawn? What are your thoughts and theories about this? Yeah, so, let's dig into this. We talked a little bit about this idea of Old Town being a trading post in the Dawn Age, before perhaps even the First Men came across, being a place where there was trade with the Children of the Forest. And we get speculation in the World of Ice and Fire that perhaps ships came there from ET, from Ashai, from all very far afield to go and trade there. Now, what we have is this island, which is known as Battle Island. Battle Isle, which is a mystery in and of itself, because we don't know what battle that might be,
That
but
ability
presumably
isn't ready
a battle occurred there at some stage. And we have the base of the High Tower. Now, the High Tower is old, very, very old. And the High Tower that we know today, the legends say this was Bran the Builder who did this. Now, Bran the Builder was around the time, obviously, when the wall was built. He was said to have end, very, very ancient Winterfell, founding House Stark. So whether or not it actually was him, the marker has to be roughly right, or that story wouldn't have carried on down. That's roughly when the High Tower as we know it today, the stone building, was built. That was the 5th iteration of it, because there were 4 wooden structures, one after another, which were built before that, each of which lasted an unknown period of time. And before that, we have the base, and the base is what's talked of as being carved stone or confused stone and labyrinthine. We've never been there in the books, so we've never seen this firsthand. But the fact that this was this kind of fused stone makes some people think, well, maybe this is the Valyrians, because they obviously did a lot of stuff with fused stone. Think of the Valyrian roads, think of the Black Wall of Atlantis. They did a lot of stuff with that. But it doesn't, the Maesters note that this doesn't seem to be their kind of style. It doesn't, the Valyrians, yes, they sometimes did very practical things like the roads, but most of the time they showed off with it. They particularly in buildings, they would show off by having twiddly bits of fused stone and just making it look intricate and beautiful. This was not that. So what might it be? The speculation about the Maze Makers. The Maze Makers of Lorath. This is an old civilization that died out, and we know very little about. What we do know is that they created these labyrinthine structures carved out of stone. This feels a bit like that, although it has this kind of fused stone element to it. So who is it? Could it possibly be a combination of people who made this, with one sort of technology here, one style of architecture from there, coming together? It's not 100% clear. Lorath is a long way north. That's in the north of Essos, so that doesn't seem to kind of make sense. But maybe there was somebody, or there were some who came from there all the way down. It is it's a deliberate mystery on George R. R. Martin's part. But what he's trying to do is give us this idea of this being an ancient site. This is not just like one of the old places like Winterfell. Winterfell pales into insignificance when it comes to Old Town, because this was there before even the Dawn Age. Probably there were people coming across, establishing this trading post, and the trading post probably was, or a safe place probably was, that island, and they created this structure in their own fashion. So if I had to guess, and this is not something that we can do more than guess about, if I had to guess, then this is a combination of people who have created a sort of a safe harbor with technology that they've brought in from all over the place. And that's why it's sort of like the Valyrians or Proto-Valyrians. It's sort of like the Maze Makers, but not really. It's like a lot of different things. It's old, and it's got lots of different influences. Kelly Johnson, did the Children of the Forest teach pre-Valyrians to control dragons? I don't think so. No, the Children of the Forest, we've got nothing with the Children of the Forest connecting them across the dragons. I think the dragon connection comes from the east, and as we covered in a couple of live streams ago, very probably is connected in with this kind of gene splicing, so that the Valyrians had a small amount of draconic genes within them, thus creating the link. Sabrina Temi saying, what magic do the children of the forest actually have? Why were they so scared of the first men and their weapons? Surely magic trumps weapons all the time. You're my fave. Well, thank you. What did they have magic-wise? I go back to, if you'll forgive the crossover to Lord of the Rings for one moment, there's a wonderful moment when the Fellowship reach Lothlorien and they come to Galadriel there, and Sam talks about the magic of the elves, and Galadriel just sort of says, well, we don't call it magic, this is just part of who we are, how we are, what's going on. It might appear magic to you, but that's not, it's just a part of who we are. That is the feel, I think, that George R. Martin's going for with the Children of the Forest. Yes, they do magical spells, but most of it is just they're in tune with nature, warging, skin changing. That's just how they naturally can do stuff, or at least the spell singers, some of them can. So what magic do they have? It's the green seer magic. That's the magic that they have. So it's through the weirwood trees, and it's being in touch with nature, being able to move through the trees, being able to move through the animals.
What can I do for
That
you?
is what we've got going on there. Why were they scared of the first men and their weapons? Because they could chop down the weirwood trees, and that's probably as simple as it is. The weirwood trees are not just sacred
Farewell.
things to the children of the forest. This is where the souls of the children of the forest go. You see the weirwood underneath the weirwood tree in Bloodraven's cave. Countless children of the forest hooked up to the weirwood tree, being sort of sucked up into it. This is
You need
the
something?
summation of their memories and experiences. If you chop down a weirwood tree, you're not just chopping down a nice tree, you're killing
travels. Hello.
the children of the forest and their ancestors and their memories and their experiences. And that is because they are so connected in with nature. That is Westeros. You are killing Westeros. So this is why they're scared. Yes, they have
Like
magic,
Westeros.
but magic isn't just a thing that you can just sort of like do. Magic has a cost.
What can I do for
If
you?
they're to do more than just
Safe
the things that are natural, then this has a cost. So we read about them when they cast the Hammer of the Waters, hundreds, thousands of sacrifices they might have made, even their own children. This is huge amounts of sacrifice in order to cast their magic. So this wasn't an even battle in any